I'm Rob. It's garage time.
Okay, see you later, bye.
Hey everybody, welcome to the garage. We are here tonight. As you can see, I am sitting in the Jag Spl. As I have mentioned in the past, I need to do this occasionally to remind myself that this thing really is a car. So what we're doing tonight is we're starting the process of actually mounting the engine that the camera is on top of right now. You saw in episode 13, I got it placed in the chassis, and that went really well, and it's really exciting. But I've got to get on with the process of creating the mounts. And I thought what I would do is break that up into 2 episodes. So episode 15, you're going to see me create the transmission mount, and episode 16, you will see me create the engine mounts. And I want to add that I'd like to thank everybody who watched episode 14, the Boneyard Fun at Bernardston. That's got the most views of any of my videos so far. The last time I looked, it was like 1,600 views. And I don't know if I wanted to get any higher than that, because, you know, on the low end of the totem pole, I'm kind of comfortable here. But anyway, I want to thank everybody who watched and everybody who commented. And yeah, I'm having a good time doing it. And I'm pleased that you find these videos at least a little bit entertaining. But anyway, before I get going with the fabricating and the sparks flying and all that happy business, the first thing I got to do is jack it up and extend the jack stands to their full height so that I can get underneath this thing and have some space to do the fabricating and measuring that I'm going to do. And I'm probably going to draw a diagram and the whole 9 yards. So let's make that happen, shall we? I am here sideways underneath the Jag Spl, and what we're looking at right now is the transmission mount. This mount right here is the Chevy mount that came with this Turbo 350 that was originally in a Camaro. And right here we have the custom transmission mount that came with the John's Cars swap kit. As you can see, the Chevy mount has 2 bolt holes to attach to the cross member, and the John's Cars kit has 1. I think that maybe what I should do is use this with the 2 bolts, because that will be a sturdier mounting than a single bolt at the tail shaft. And I do expect to beat this thing up a little bit. So maybe 2 bolts is the way to go. So here we have the 2 mounts, the original Chevrolet mount, which doesn't look to be in terribly bad shape. And this has 2 bolt holes for, I would imagine, 3/8/16 bolts. And let's grab a tap. Here we go. 7/16 14. Well, what do you know? Yeah, that looks good. Do I have any 7/16 14s laying around is the question. As you may have all assumed, I took some measurements of this lovely Chevrolet Camaro transmission adapter and transferred that to the infamous Never Wonderful build notes, and then made a sketch of the first piece that I'm going to make for this. And it's going to be constructed out of some 2 by 3 by 120 wall rectangular tube which I have a whole bunch of still. And then we've got the 2 holes. It's going to be 2 1/4 wide by 3 inches wide by 2 1/4 deep by the 2 inches thick. And then what I'm going to do is add some 1/8 inch thick gussets to the sides and drill the 2 holes to match the 2 bolts. And what I've decided to do is, since these are 7/16 bolts, I'm going to drill 1/2 inch clearance holes. The 1/2 inch holes will give me a little bit more wiggle room. So first, let's go grab some 2 by 3 by 120 wall tube, cut us off a 3-inch piece, and then slice it to these dimensions. Cool. NBC. There we go. Perfection was achieved. I'm using different tungstens this time. I'm using the red, which is thoriated, not lanthanated, or I don't know. These red tungstens seem to work pretty great. So, let's look at the notebook, because that's always a good time. There we go. Oh, no, no, no. Man, that's 2 years ago. Still 2 years ago. Where are we? Oh, that's last week. Here we are. Okay, there it is. Look at that. Looks just like the drawing. Cool. Looks pretty good. I have to say, right here, we are looking at the 2 greatest TIG welds I have ever done in my entire life. And I think I got it figured out. I did try to do these inner fillets, but failed miserably at that because I can't do, I mean, that's just tough welding in there. So I just whipped out the MIG welder and did those 2, so it's welded on both sides. And these actually give me some hope that maybe someday I'll be able to TIG weld okay. One can only hope. All right, so anyway, let's do a test fit. Ooh, looks pretty good. Yay. I'm done. Look at that, will you? Well, that's the first part of the transmission mount. We're gonna have to make a second part. So I think we're done for today. And tomorrow we'll bolt this to the transmission and then see where it falls and then figure out how we're gonna mount that to the chassis. Yeah, baby, looking good. Yep, hardship conditions. It's 20 degrees out, but it is sunny, and so I'm able to push the 3-wheeler and the Vit Pillin out into the driveway, and then I will be going into the garage to do some work. Once I get into the garage, yeah, oh, not terrible. So we got a plan happening here, and I'm going to show you what that plan is. First of all, I've selected some materials with which to effect the transmission mount. And what I'm going to do is make the mount itself out of this lovely tube of, I believe this is 1 1/4 by 3. Let's get underneath there and mark some stuff. Hopefully the jet engine heater isn't too annoying. It might be, I don't know. Bring it in here. Shove it up against the transmission mount bracket that is bolted to the transmission. And then there's that. Actually, what is that? Oops. Okay, so we've got the tube marked. Let's drag this out and make some more cuts. Measure the marked angles using Uncle Carl's variable protractor. Woo! That steel is cold on my hands. So that angle is 73.5 degrees. Okay.
Okay, so we've done some setup here, and what we've got going on is, with Cody's excellent help, we've taken the transmission mount cross tube and clamped it to the fabricated mount bracket that we made the other day. As you can see, we've got C-clamps underneath, we've got C-clamps here. The bracket is clamped sufficiently that I can now tack weld it to the tube and then take it out for full welding. So that's what we're gonna do now.
So what I'm doing right now is I'm designing the pieces that are going to weld into the chassis to attach the transmission mount. This is 1.5 by 4 by 120 thousandths wall rectangular tubing. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw it up full size. You'll get to peek over my shoulder to see what I do. We want 73.5 degrees. Or 74, that'll be fine. This way, 4 inches. Yeah. And the tubing is 1 1/4. This is where the notch is going to be. We want this to be 3 inches. There's that. Just going to eyeball the wall. Just because we can. There we go. Then what we will do is we're gonna do a side view now. Draw a reference line right there. It's a 1 1/4 high. There's our full tubing, but what we're going to do is notch it right there. We're going to angle it like so. So this is going to wind up being 1.25. Cut to base. After we've cut the notch, we just scribe another line from here to the point and just cut off whatever that is to make the angled gusset. And that's going to be the piece. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hand this sketch off to Cody and have him cut the pieces out. What do you mean there's no transmission? What do you mean there's holes drilled? What are you talking about? My continuity is not out of sequence. This is just to give an illustration of how we fixtured the chassis brackets in for welding. Because I happen to know that the difference between the inner width of the chassis brackets that Cody made and the outer width of this tube on the transmission mount is 3/4 of an inch. Divide that by 2, that's 3/8 of an inch. And the best way to make 3/8 of an inch is to take a piece of 1/4 inch bar and some 1/8 inch plate and shim them in there. And then, but again, this would have been attached to the transmission and then and squared up by eye, of course, my calibrated eye. And then we apply the shims and then clamp the brackets, clamp the chassis brackets to the chassis rail end. Get on with the welding, which is what you're going to see right now. Well, if they weren't welded in before, they are now. And here are the finished products. The chassis brackets, as my son expertly manufactured them for me. There's the notch right there, welded around the chassis frame. This will give you an illustration of how well they matched that sketch that I did. So yeah, returning the video to a in-sequence continuity. Okay, so here we have the transmission mount tube weldment, and what I'm going to do now is locate where I want the bolt holes to be that will bolt this to those brackets that Cody made and that I would welded to the chassis. Okay, now I want these to be 5/8 in. The diameter of the bolt will be 375, so 5/8 in will be good enough. 1/2 inch in would be good enough, actually. There's that. Goes 5/8. Okay. Placing each of these bolt holes at a nice 3/4 of an inch. Boom, right there. And right there. And right here. And right here. I like to do 3 snaps to get a good divot in there. 1, 2, and 3. Very nice. And then once again, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. As you can see, these holes I've drilled are not 7/16 or 3/8. They are whatever this is. I believe that's a number 10 or it's a 188. But what I've done is I've pilot drilled these because what I'm going to do is to bring it over to the chassis and then match drill these holes into the brackets that are welded onto the chassis so that I don't have to do any real measuring. I can just poke the drill through, pilot the holes over there, and then drill them to size at my leisure, which is what I'm going to do right now. Drill goes in one hole, find the other hole, and then there we go. Okay. And then repeat for the other side. As you may well have come to understand, I was drilling from a rather awkward position. And when you're match drilling from an awkward position like that, the risk is that as the drill bursts through the bottom surface, you can flex the drill slightly as it pops through, and that will break a drill bit. And I managed to break this drill bit on the third hole,
Fortunately, I had a second, so I was able to complete. And I did match drill all 4 of those holes for the bracket. Now I can go back and drill the full-size holes and put some bolts through, and then show you how I'm going to put the crush tubes into the cross tube bracket, because that's a thing. Okay, so here's the bracket. There it is right there. So up we go through the washer, and then the nut up on top, the mount. Yeah, that looks good. Also into the mount. That. And then this. And then this. There we go. Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure I introduce you to the Jag Spl Transmission Mount. I have to take this out again and weld the crush tubes into the ends. I'll show you exactly what's going to go on with that when that happens. But yeah, success. There it is. The back end of this transmission is mounted into the chassis, nice and sturdy like. Awesome. Okay, I think I want to go have some dinner now. Yum. Here we have a 7/16 bolt, and as we tighten the bolt, the threads apply a lot of force to squeeze the tube, to tighten it down. And what happens is it will crush the tube. It will squeeze these 2 walls of the tube in. And so we have to have some bit of structure on this that will prevent that from happening. What I want to do is weld some little bits of tubing in here, in between these 2 walls, to prevent the walls from crushing down when I tighten the bolts. Because these holes are relatively close to this end, I can pretty easily get the MIG torch in there to weld this side to hold them in position. I don't need to weld them all the way around. All I need really is to have enough weld to hold the crush tubes in place. And the material that I am going to use for this is this, one of the fender struts from the donor. But what I got to do now is nip this end off, and I'm going to use my tubing cutter. That will give me a nice square end from which to start. Okay, so there's that. You need to smooth those edges because from cutting this tube, there's a little bit of flash on the inside that will give me an inaccurate caliper reading. So, and what we see is 1.27 inches. Mark the tube. There we go. We'll come up here. Okay. The tubing, I'm not sure if you can see, there's a little ridge right there. That is the ridge that's left over from cutting a piece of tubing with a tubing cutter. And that's the ridge that you have to either deburr or knock down. There are our crush tubes ready for welding. Did I mention that it's New Year's Eve? Let's crank this one on. Let's put this one on too, just for fun. What did I do with my helmet? Oh, there it is. Good old Miller. Yeah. The Akaso does not beep loudly enough. Not like you GoPros. I like you GoPros. You guys are the bomb. You guys are the best. Turn on the welder. Brilliant! Now, so you guys can see what I'm doing, let's flip this thing over. Also so that I can see what I'm doing. The lighting's much better in this direction. Trust me. Trust me, I'm an expert. Yeah. There we go. Cool. Oh, there's one other thing I want to do. I'll show you guys. This is the passenger side engine mount from the donor. As you can see, there is a slot in the bottom of that thing. And that's to allow for variability in the tolerances of where the mounts wind up between the engine and the chassis. And so ordinarily, mounts like this, transmission mounts and engine mounts, will have some slotting in them to allow for that, for the variability and tolerancing on the engine and transmission. The other thing that I think I want to do real quick is grab my round file. Where'd it go? Round file, here it is. And slightly elongate the holes in that direction. Yes, nose full of metal shavings. Everybody likes that. Okay, let's go slam this thing in there and give it its final test fit. Hello. Pull it this way. Bend ourselves out of there slightly, and then there. Hoist that up. Here's the bracket. A completed bracket. Yeah. And yeah, so the transmission mount is complete. I feel pretty great. I was able to put it in with the 7/16 hardware, and it all looks really good, and it is supporting the transmission just as it's supposed to. So that's a successful thrash. The thrash was substantial and worth it. So now we're moving on to the engine mounts, and that will be in the next episode. So as always, thank you for watching. Please do like and subscribe, and I'll see you around the channel.
1, 2, 3, 4. Well, my daddy, he raced stock cars a long, long time ago at New England's fastest quarter mile, doing old Westboro Road. He and Mom would rally around in their MGTD, but they bought a Porsche 356 to hear my mom and me. I was raised back here Strip tillage, messing around with cars.